Hey, everybody. Sorry it's been a while. We've all been busy. So we're back on tonight. And with that, Spanny's trying to get on. So with that, go ahead, Kim.
I'm happy to be here to co-host with you tonight, Tiffany. It's an honor, truly is. And I just wanted to take a minute. I have been in this fight, I couldn't believe it, but 30 years now. And oh, let me take a deep breath. My mentor, and probably the first woman that was really powerful in our cause, Faye Yeager, passed away on Saturday. Like any good warrior, she was controversial, but she truly had a passion for this and a passion for children because it affected her life as well and her child. And I just wanted to take a minute to recognize the amazing life she had, the contributions she made, um, that she went on lots of media and all kinds of things, and even getting thrown in jail and lawsuits filed against her. And they tried to put her in the pen for helping women and children. And she hid women and children all over the world. They were called Sallies. And these were women and children who were not being protected by the court system. And she was a valiant warrior. And I just wanted to take the time to recognize her and the amazing life she had.
Wow. I wish I could have met her.
She was amazing. And unfortunately, cancer is what took her at 75.
Yeah.
So, but I can feel her with us tonight.
Yeah. I just got goosebumps. Woo. That gave me goosebumps. She probably is here.
I think so. I think she's been with me all week. So,
Wow. Let me send this guy the link. He said he didn't get it. So just bear with me. Go ahead and talk,
okay.
Kim. while I-
Well, and I think we all need to remember, we're here for the voiceless. And I ended up speaking to one of the producers who did a show about me that Faye had reached out to back in, I want to say the show aired in 1999 on WSB in Atlanta. And I had a great conversation with him. And he told me he felt like the best work he had ever done was with me and Faye. And he was the most proud of that work at 60. He's 65 years old now. And so it was nice to speak to him. And I thanked him for giving us a voice, because without people like him that were willing to stand up for us, we didn't have a voice. I mean, there wasn't Steam, there wasn't the internet, there wasn't all the things. And back in the day, I mean, Time Magazine came and photographed us, and we were on Dateline, and that's how we had a voice back then. Faye was on Sally Jeffy Raphael, on um, Phil Donahue, like all kinds of talk show hosts had her on. And a lot of people didn't like her because of what she was doing. But she always did the right thing. And I can tell you, she looked at paperwork. She never coached children. She never did any of those things. She truly loved them. And it's because her daughter, Michelle, was being molested by her ex husband. And she ran with Michelle. And then Michelle turned up having gonorrhea from her dad. And so she went back thinking the courts would protect her child, and they did not. And so nothing surprised her. And as she used to tell me, every child that came to see us, we used to sit in the Dunkin' Donuts on Roswell Road in Atlanta, Georgia, and women would come see us. And she would say, every child I see, their face is, they've got Michelle all over them. I see her every single time a child comes to me. And she formed a really neat bond with my daughter back then. And she never lied to the children. She was honest with them on their level. And I think that's so important when we're in this fight and we have these children that this happens to. You have to be honest with them, because you really don't know when they're going to come get them and give them back to their abuser.
Mhm.
And you don't, if you're not honest with the children, of course, on their level, then and you go, oh, it's never going to happen again. It's never going to happen again. The reality we live in is it does happen again. They are given
Mhm.
back to their abusers. And to come full circle with my daughter, who was given back to her abuser, he continued to abuse her after she pointed the finger at him. And when that happened, she's now in prison. She got messed up with a human trafficker. She's addicted to meth. And that is a full circle story if you want to go read what happens to children when they point the finger and they're returned to their abusers. So Faye was a true warrior, and she taught me so much that I know now. I believe she was more of a mother to me than my own mother, not even realizing it back then, but she truly was. And she gave me the grit and tenacity to be here today, still fighting this battle and helping women.
Well, I'm glad you're in this fight.
Oh,
And before George talks, I just want to say, I often think about, because I'm in my 50s, you're in your 50s, and most of the people that are coming up now, I'm talking about this Gen X or whatever the hell they're calling them.
yeah.
Who is going to fight when we're dead, right? Like, who's going to carry this on? Who's going to keep trying to make change and protect the kids if advocates and people like us aren't out here doing it? I often worry about that. I actually worry about it.
You know, unfortunately, Tiffany, I think that unless we make the changes that we're hoping to make, and trust me, it has come a long way from 30 years ago when I started the fight. And it's come a long way because we have like this platform we can be on, because we have the internet, because we have so many things. So my hope and prayer is that we can continue to get the word out about what's going on. And the reality is people know how corrupt things are now. And it's kind of like, where do we go from here? And I think so many people, like back when this happened to me and my children, they're like, oh, a mother never loses her children. Oh, a father would never do that to his children. You know, there was something wrong with me. Well, the something wrong with me is that I was like, this is going to stop, you know, and they wanted to silence me. And they felt like taking my children would silence me, which it didn't. I'm still here today. But I do believe, unfortunately, there are going to be more and more survivors of this who will stand up. And that's my hope and prayer is that, you know, God puts us all where we need to be. The universe puts us all where we need to be to give those voices to the voiceless and to continue this fight because it's wrong on so many levels. And you know, of course, I've been a champion for women and children, and now there's so many men this is happening to as well. Um, and these crimes are heinous. I mean, they're heinous. Like when you take away the innocence of a child, you have taken everything from that child. I mean, you can never give that back. And I'll tell you, I mean, Tiffany, there's so many women I've met who have been through this that are not sane anymore
Huh.
because it makes you crazy when they do this to your children as a woman. I mean, it's biology.
I,
And so,
I'm one of them. I'm telling you, they think I'm crazy, but I'm not.
right. Well, they try to say you're crazy because you're fighting against them. And
Right,
that's the only thing they have left to say. And then somebody meets you and you're like, nope, she's not crazy. She's fighting the good fight.
right.
And I do believe, unfortunately, there will be more people of the Gen X that this kind of stuff happens to, and they will join the cause. And hopefully in bigger numbers than when it was just Faye Yeager.
Yeah, I hope so. So I want. This is George. This is my first time talking to him, other than in texting and all that happy horse shit. I watched a couple of his videos, and I'm like, oh my god, we need to have him on the show. So
Hi,
George,
George.
I'm gonna, huh?
I said, hi, George.
Hey,
So
can
I'm
everybody hear
gonna
me?
let him talk because this guy is another advocate, and I just love him. So go ahead.
Where are we streaming at? Are we on Facebook? Because
We're
I
on
wanted to share.
YouTube.
Oh, we're on YouTube. Okay, great. Um, so my name is George Saldani. I live in the state of Texas. I'm a family court advocate. I kind of got into the whole family court advocacy because of interference with child custody. In short, my ex wouldn't turn over my child with a valid court order. And there's two ways to find relief. You can go through the civil courts or you can go through the criminal courts. And the possession and access portion of your custody order is enforceable in the state of Texas criminally and civilly. And for years, they've been telling parents that it's a civil matter. And many parents have had to go and get themselves in a financial bind with an attorney and enter family court. Excuse me. And so some of the times that these parents go into family court, the judges aren't making rulings fast enough. They're depriving parents the ability for possession and access. Nobody will enforce those orders. Law enforcement won't enforce them. The judge won't enforce them. So it says that you have these rights on your court orders, but in reality, they're not effective. Nobody will uphold that court order unless you go to civil court and you start paying to play. And when I found out that law enforcement wouldn't enforce the orders and the courts won't enforce the orders, well, then you're in a, I guess you're in a different arena, I guess you could say, because now you're sitting there with trumped up orders saying that you have these rights, and realistically you don't. So I kind of, the way I work and I do things, I kind of simplify the problem, and I kind of work from the bottom up. And a lot of parents, and you were just saying that more people are going to have to be getting involved. And you're absolutely right. We live in the technological age. We live, with iPhones and iPads. Kids have iPhones and YouTube and TikTok and Snapchat. So our reach is a lot greater than 1980 or 1990, when we didn't have the internet, we didn't have social media. So now we're able to dispense a lot of this information, a lot of these things that all these advocates have in common. We're able to educate other parents on these platforms and give them hope. And it's really not rocket science to become a lawyer. You just need to be able to read and comprehend. The law states the case law says legislative intent is how the law is written. So if it says the apple is red, the apple is red, right? And a lot of attorneys, they like to do wordplay, and they like to twist everything so much that it complicates things and it extends litigation. So what I try to do is I just try to simplify it for some of these parents that don't have the financial resources to keep obtaining a lawyer when their possession and access rights are being denied.
May I ask you where you are in Texas?
I'm in San Antonio. My case is out of Harris County, Houston.
I'm in San Antonio as well. We'll have to get together for sure.
Oh yeah, I try to have meetups here in San Antonio, and I encourage everybody to attend. Grandmothers, moms, dads. This isn't a gender issue, and I think for years they've been trying to make it a gender issue because as long as the genders are fighting, amongst each other, they can keep running this family court scheme. But now a lot of moms and dads are being, thrown into this family court scheme, and now they're all talking and they're saying, "Hey, look, the type of the game is to see how much money you have, and extort that money through I call it weaponization of the legal skill." Mm-hmm. And the reason I call that the weaponization of the legal skill is because when lawyers go to law school, they're supposed to learn to uphold the law. They're not supposed to learn tricks into tricking people out of their property. And now you're using your skill set to harm somebody or harm a child at that. And so I really started digging into the players in family court, and it's kind of like a football game. When you go into family court, you need to know all the players, the bailiff, who the bailiff is, where did he go to school, what laws govern the bailiff, what policies and procedures govern the bailiff. Same thing with the court coordinator, same thing with the guardian ad litem, same thing with opposing counsel. You have to do your research. And with social media, we're able to educate people in doing that. But when it gets to the judge, a lot of people for years have been told that the judges have a wide range of discretion. And I after digging and doing case law and looking for things, I'm starting to see discretion doesn't allow a person to oppress another person. Discretion, the immunity there, as we've seen in current events, everybody talks about immunity and discretion with judges. Judges are not above the law. Judges are not above the criminal law. They can't be sued. They can't be sued because they have civil immunity. They are not immune from criminal prosecution. And in Texas, two of the two statutes in the penal code that I can think of right now is official oppression and abuse of office. And we have to remember that the laws of the state of Texas, the Texas Constitution, United States Constitution, was made to protect the people from the government. So if we utilize official oppression, if we know a judge is oppressing you and they're denying you the ability to enforce your rights, well, then that's official oppression. And, you know, when you hear oppression, you usually kind of think, you know, slavery and oppression back in the day. And so we've evolved since then. And I tell people this all the time. So lawyers, again, it's not hard to be a lawyer. All you got to do is be able to read and comprehend and put some simple logic together, and you know you're on the right side of the law. But in 1880, when lawyers and Abraham Lincoln, Civil War, the literacy rate was nothing. Nobody knew how to read or write, so you had to go and hire an educated attorney to protect your rights. Now, fast forward 2024, we have the statutes on the internet. We have the civil rules of procedure. We have the appellate procedure, the rules. We have all the rules. We have the court rules. We have the disciplinary rules of professional conduct, the judicial canons. We can teach ourselves with just the very basic. Legislative intent is how the law is written. Plain English, plain context. They can't give an opinion to it. Judges are only supposed to call balls and strikes. And what we're seeing in family court, judges are legislating from the bench. They're legislating from the bench, and it needs to stop. So the more that I can help educate more parents in the area, I will, because if I win, y'all win. If y'all win, I win. And we have to take our wins like that. The whole idea of going to court, being scared, should be a thing of the past. We should be able to go in there confident, knowing that the judge is going to rule in the favor of justice, not because you're a man, not because you're a woman, but because fair is fair. Everybody now in America wants equality and to be heard and their rights upheld. But when parents go to family court, we're deemed the monsters, or what you were saying, the dangerous individual that's going against the court system. So I'm here to help whichever way I can. I believe that if you push educational content out, that many of us older parents or grandparents are going to be able to comprehend it, especially when you bring it down to a level that they're able to comprehend. Some attorneys talk with big words, and they try to do wordplay or do word salad in order to get you to agree to things. And I'm trying to educate parents that, you know, everything in law is word for word. If you don't know the true definition of that word, you need to find the legal definition of that word and then rephrase that paragraph with wording that you understand or that can be enforced. So the technology's out there. All we got to do is use it, teach others to use it, and then start pushing forward.
George, I just wanted to comment on this and actually get your input on it. I have been a huge proponent, like when you were talking about Abraham Lincoln and back in the day and people were not literate and that kind of thing. Also, I think it's a huge thing to realize that judges traveled a circuit. They would come to town, they would go into the courthouse, if there was one, the church, or the school. Typically it was the church or the school, and the town would basically shut down and everybody would go hear the judge, and that is part of what kept them honest. And now We don't go watch court. We don't see what people are doing as far as the everyday person. So I also think there needs to be a huge movement for people to go sit in these courtrooms and see what's going on as a society, because they are doing things that are not legal. I mean, it's like here in Bear County, they have a rolling docket. So you see one judge one time that makes a ruling, then you see another judge that doesn't have all the facts that makes a different ruling the next time. And so, and that is the only county in the state of Texas that does that. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on court watching and that kind of thing.
Uh, court watchers, court observers, it's a great idea, and I'm a big advocate for cameras in the courtrooms, because realistically, our lives are busy. But yet we want to be able to monitor the courts. We still got to go to work. We still got to do things during the day. And many of us can't just take the day off to go watch these court proceedings, whether it's for learning, whether it's for intel, whether it's to see how a judge reacts or does or renders orders based on certain parties. You have that right for open courts. And I always tell people this: open courts doesn't equal access to the courts. And a lot of, and that's why I say a lot of these words are wordplay, right? They're going to say, well, the courts are open, you can come and watch. Well, no, you're using tax dollars. And not only are you using tax dollars, but that court, the people shall have access. Again, we live in 2024. We have Zoom, we have cameras, we have microphone, we have captions on testimony, right? We have all this technology, but they still want to use 1980 rules. Come into the court and watch us, because they know that you're so busy with life, you're not going to take off to go and watch them. But let's talk about recording in courtrooms. A lot of research in recording in courtrooms. I've recorded some of my hearings. I've even told the judge.
Oh no. Did he freeze?
Here?
There
Okay.
he is. Now he's not frozen.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
something happened. So, so recordings, I've told my judge I was recording, and we have to think logically. So COVID hit March of 2020. And when COVID hit, it was around the globe. It didn't just affect Texas or New York or California. It affected the globe, right? They stopped airplanes from flying in. They shut down airports, right? It was a big issue. And so going in here in Texas, going into the legislative session, it hit so close to the legislative session that nobody legislated any laws about recording. There's nothing in the Texas Penal Code that says you can't record. What it says is you can't disturb a court proceeding. But recording isn't disturbing a court proceeding. And again, the public's open courtroom doctrine is to ensure that the public has access, because the courthouse can be open, but you can't have access to certain rooms because of confidentiality issues, right? There's certain parts of the courtroom where you can access. But as far as courtrooms, the reason why you have open courts is for access of the public. So a lot of judges are going to say, well, we have open courts, come on in. But I'm trying to tell people, hey, look, you shall have access to those open courts. If they're using Zoom, your tax dollars are using it, you should have the ability to watch that Zoom. So the Court of Administration, Office of Court of Administration, the OCA here in the state of Texas, has issued the open court doctrine, and they pretty much give out information to the judges around the state. And they, in that open court doctrine, it talked about case law and access to courts. So a funny story here in Bear County, God, what's her name? Anyway, she's a judge here. I walked in to go watch and court observe, and she had the bailiff come over and confiscate my phone. They wanted to confiscate my phone. So she asked me to state my name for the record. and to give my phone to the bailiff right as I walked in. And Alvarez, Mary Lou Alvarez, I walked into her court. She didn't know me. I hadn't seen her, never met her. I walked in, give your cell phone to the bailiff. And a lot of this information, we've been told to listen to the judge for so long. Listen to the judge. You're going to get in trouble. They're going to hold you in contempt. They're going to do all these things. And these lawyers kind of encourage that, right? Instead of saying, hey, look, you know, I think it's legal, or legally, I can tell you this or tell you that. But the lawyers don't want to get in trouble. But long story short, these judges are putting these orders out on the court doors, and they're just a piece of paper saying don't record or something like that. If you've ever gone to a bar, if you go by the door of the bar or an establishment that has alcohol, it will have the penal code in which it violates you taking a gun into a bar setting will violate that code, right? So why don't they have those on the court doors? All they did was went to the back, printed something off of Word, and then put some Scotch tape on it. That is not an order of the court. That's just a sign. Anybody can make that sign. If you're going to make an order of the court, it needs to be served to me. You have to have jurisdiction over me. And a lot of these judges are assuming jurisdiction, taking your property, telling you to give it to the bailiff. Well, that's against your Fourth Amendment, search and seizure. And you're in the house of law, right? That's like going to church with your Bible and they're trying to confiscate your Bible, right? So going back to the COVID issue, they never legislated any laws, and they haven't legislated any laws. So the only thing that says you can't record, it says you may ask the court to record. That's what 18C of the civil rules of procedure. That's 18C. It says you can ask, but I don't want to ask. But not just that, I know that y'all are committing crimes in here. So if y'all are committing crimes and you're oppressing me, it's my job as a citizen to hold my government accountable. So I'm going to record you I'm going to record you in your official capacity under the color of law, violate me, and then I want to show it to people. So now if they come and retaliate against you, now that's retaliation. It's official oppression, abuse of office, or whatever. But also for transcript integrity. A lot of us can't afford the transcripts. A lot of us are pro se. It's a big financial burden to purchase those. And we want to be able to prove that there was misconduct in our judiciary. So I always encourage people. I say, man, if you record a crime and you post it and you report it, you're doing your duty as a citizen. If you saw an old lady getting mugged or somebody getting assaulted or stealing, your job as a citizen is to report it. So why wouldn't you report your judiciary who's violating the laws? And that's just my thinking on it.
Well, I tell people, hold on, Kim. I tell people, just like body cam footage, you can do a FOIA request on with the police. They have cameras in those courtrooms because I've seen them. They need to start doing FOIA requests for their trials.
So I did that. And so the way it falls, and this is Harris County. I haven't done it in Bexar County or any other county. And especially in the hallways, you have cameras in the hallways because there's always litigants fighting. There's lawyers that are trying to egg the other litigant or the other party, the opposing party, to do something so they can use it in court. So knowing that, I've asked for public information through the Harris County court system to give me those hallway cameras, and they won't give them to me. I've gone all the way to the Texas Attorney General about it. And even though it's not in the courtroom, they say it's judicial. It's considered a judicial record. But Judge Peak said that the only judicial record is from the official court reporter. With that being said, I just got my transcripts from final trial, and there's misspellings. There's words that aren't correct. And we live in 2024. Why are we not using microphones that have AI generated transcriptions? I understand a lot of transcribers or court reporters are going to lose their job, but to be more effective, if we had recordings on CDs or on jump drives, it doesn't even have to be 4K. It can be 1080p or 720p. But the fact is that family court wants to keep their doors closed. And it's our job fighting for our children, our grandchildren, to start exposing the judiciary with the social media tools that we have. YouTube, Facebook, those are tools to me. I use them as a tool to educate others.
Well, I'm glad that you're doing this. We need people like us. I'm gonna say us because it's us on here, and Spanny, poor Spanny, she's just trying to get on. And I want people to know where they can find you, because you actually just came across my newsfeed one day and I just clicked on you. I'm like, oh my God, we need to talk to this guy. And I don't know, like, I live in Virginia. We have grandparent rights here. Some states don't have grandparent rights. Do you guys have grandparent rights?
No, not in Texas.
Wow. So only the parents have
I'm
rights.
semi here.
Yeah, they
I'm
don't.
semi here. I'm trying.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
As long as I don't move or breathe too heavy on the phone, or I think we're okay.
Come on down, Spandy. You're the next contestant.
So I don't know if you've ever dealt with CPS, George, but we do a lot of CPS cases. Spanny actually gets terminations overturned and kids back home. I'm the Constitution person, because not just the Constitution, but the Bill of Rights was actually written as a restraining order against the government. Okay, I took this class and I'm like, what? So I tell people, because sometimes cops do not comprehend. CPS workers do not comprehend. So they make these little kid things for like the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I tell people, print out the kiddie parts and post them on your front door, because it can't get any more easier than looking at a cartoon that's saying, I have the right to be quiet. I have the right not to talk to you. I have the right to privacy. It can't get any simpler than that. And as far as these judges, see, are your judges elected or are they appointed?
So ours in the state of Texas, they're all elected.
See, here, our judges are appointed. The only one that can remove a judge in the state of Virginia is our legislative body, who appoints these judges.
Not the Supreme Court?
Well, they might be able to,
So
because they're the
in
highest
Texas,
court.
so through Texas Constitution, you can remove a sitting judge through the SCJC, which is the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. They would refer it to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court would hold a hearing and determine whether they're going to remove or not. You can remove them through the legislature as well, but I've been wanting to know how many judges have been removed in the history of the Constitution through the Supreme Court. You can't tell me over the years y'all haven't found one judge that y'all had to remove for having issues. And it seems like a lot of the judicial sanctions that I see come from other states. Other states are holding judges accountable, but we're not seeing that many come out of Texas. And another thing is the SCJC here in the state of Texas, they list everybody that they give a public admonishment or sanctions to on their website. It's just a real generic. George Saldana got in trouble. He's with this court in San Antonio, Texas, and even though those records are confidential, what we're starting to see is that a lot of municipal court judges, county court judges, criminal court judges get sanctioned and public admonished way more than family district court judges. You don't ever, very once in a while, you will see a family district court judge being admonished on the SCJC, but it's not very frequent. It's very, very rare. And other judges, so it makes me believe that they know that they're protecting the family court judges by holding a few accountable. We're saying, hey, we did hold some accountable. You can't say we don't hold them accountable, because we only did 2 out of the 3,000 complaints we got in 2022. So that's how they play. It's all wordplay in family court. It's all wordplay in CPS, the child support system, the all of DFPS, all of that stuff is screwed up. Everything the government touches is screwed up, plain and simple. So it's going to be up to us to kind of shape it. And what I tell a lot of parents here in the state of Texas, we are really in uncharted territory. I don't think the Texas judiciary, the family court judiciary, or judiciaries across the United States have seen so many parents start using Zoom to call out their judges. And so they're kind of panicking. They know that we're watching. They know we're assembling. They know we're congregating. We're coming together. We're using platforms. We're talking about their profession. We're calling them out. And what I've heard from several other parents in Harris County is that some of these judges are now starting to render fairer rulings. And it makes me feel good in Harris County, because I contributed to that by calling out the Harris County judges that weren't doing right. And again, just like you make and you just said, the Bill of Rights is like a restraining order from the government. The constitutions are made to protect the people from the government. So it's your First Amendment right, your Second Amendment right. And again, your First Amendment right includes calling out the judiciary. Your First Amendment right, just like you have the right to talk about Trump or Biden or Obama or Clinton or Bush, whatever, whoever, just like you have that right to criticize them, critique them, you have that exact same right to do to an elected judge. They are elected by the people, and they are open to criticism and being critiqued from their constituents.
Well, I can share with you in Bexar County. I just got finished with a court case. I don't know, when was it, Tiffany? We adopted in November, so it hasn't been very long.
Yeah.
And when we were in court, they trampled all over my rights, even though I knew my rights and I was representing myself. And so I think we definitely need to start doing that in Bexar County for sure. I mean, all over, but in Bexar County, because with this rolling docket, it's like nobody takes responsibility for what they do. And including, the person I was fighting for custody of this child with, I mean, was doing meth. She was with a convicted rapist in the military, like on and on and on. And they kept exposing this child to her, and she is now in prison, by the way. But with all that being said, it was like I was just beating my head against the wall. And then, because that rolling docket exists in Bexar County, her attorneys were filing 4 and 5 things every single day against me under different court numbers, so that I would have to sit in front of my computer all day long and go in front of 5 different judges.
Yep.
And I couldn't work. And so, I mean, I think that we definitely need to do this and encourage people to do it. And, go in the courtroom with your phone and record them. Do the things that we, the people, have the rights to do.
And you're absolutely right as far as that. But what I have seen, and it works. It works with pretty much everything when it comes to government. And when you show up by yourself and you start showing them up, and a little bit more, they tend to oppress you, right? Because the lawyer's working with the judges, and they kind of just shut you down. Like you said, they just trampled over your rights. and they kind of just flick you like a booger. They know that you don't have the master skill set as a pro se litigant in district court. You're not going to figure out the appeals court. And so that's what they went on for years, was that he can't even really file anything in here. His filings are sucky, and he can't go to the appeals court because he could barely make it in the district court. So we're just going to oppress him, and if he wants to take it to the appeals court, fine. And if he gets my ruling overturned, fine. He's going to come back and see me. The appeals court isn't going to do anything but tell me I was wrong. I have judicial immunity. So a lot of these judges, they're not scared. I'm just going to make it more difficult for you to see your child, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to oppress you, send you to the appeals court, make you either rack your brain emotionally and mentally, financially, to get your brief in, just to tell me I was wrong. Again, we live in 2024. Every judge has a computer, an iPad, books at their disposal. They can make those rulings right then and there. But instead, they'd rather take them under advisement. Let's go to the back. Let me talk, finagle things. And then if we don't like George, we're just going to overrule him, and he can take it to the appeals court. If he can appeal every judgment that I want, I don't care, because there's nothing that's going to happen to me. The SCJC isn't going to sanction me. He's not going to sue me. It's going to cost Mr. Saldana more headaches. Well, when you have that mindset and you willfully do that, I'm going to send him to the appeals court just because I don't like the guy.
Right.
That right there is criminal. I'm going to send you to jail just because I don't like you. I'm going to send you to the appeals court just because I don't like you. That's oppressive. And that should be against the law, because the judge has sworn an oath to uphold the laws and the Constitution of the state. So when they're oppressing you, you need to document it. One of the things I started doing in the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, it tells you how to file a criminal complaint. There's nothing in the law or the Constitution here in the state of Texas that I've been able to find that says you have to report all criminal offenses to law enforcement. There's nothing that says that. It says all felonies shall go before a magistrate of the county. That's what the law says. A felony complaint shall go before a magistrate of the county. Okay, well, let's simplify that. What's a magistrate? Well, let me go into the Code of Criminal Procedure and define what a magistrate is. A magistrate, by the Code of Criminal Procedure in the state of Texas, says a magistrate is a Supreme Court justice, Court of Appeals, Court of Criminal Appeals, and district court judge. So if law enforcement won't give me my criminal complaint because I'm not going to take it, it's a civil matter, go call an attorney. You just have a peace officer, law enforcement officer, just deny you straight up, which happens a lot with interference with child custody. They say it's a civil matter. What I've been doing is I've been filing criminal complaints affidavit based on the Code of Criminal Procedure, how to draft a criminal complaint, and I file it straight into my case. If you go to the Texas Constitution, and I'm not sure if it would be the same in your Constitution, but it says judges are conservators of the peace in their jurisdiction. If you're in family court, that judge has assumed exclusive or continuing jurisdiction of your case. So if judges are magistrates and you say, hey, judge, this person broke the law, but law enforcement has denied me the ability, that judge has a duty to refer that to a criminal court. So I found that loophole. So I went around that route. Okay, well, let me take you down this rabbit hole. You have a bailiff in your court. Your bailiff is a certified peace officer in the state of Texas. If you look at the government code and you look up bailiff's general duties, it'll say bailiff's general duties are to uphold general law and the security of the courtroom. They don't belong to the judge. They are not the judge's henchmen. They are there for the security of the court, and they are there for the administrative things, but also to uphold general law. They're still a peace officer. So if somebody commits aggravated perjury on the stand in view of a magistrate, in view of a bailiff who's supposed to uphold general law and the Constitution, why can't you make your criminal complaint with the bailiff who just saw the testimony? Have him as your witness, right? That's another loophole. But a lot of people are like, well, I can't talk to the bailiff, or the bailiff is threatening me. Hey, when you know the bailiff's job duties better than him, you can enforce it. So you say, hey, man, I'm just trying to give you a criminal complaint. I want you to write it up. You know, aggravated perjury, it's a felony in the state of Texas. You're a peace officer. The law says that felonies shall be forthwith before a magistrate of the county. With that being said, she's a magistrate. She also saw it, and I want this referred for prosecution. I've done that in my own personal case. They didn't want to acknowledge it. They did like a scary movie. They didn't want to look at it. And I'm sitting there forcing them, but I filed it. It's in the case. And that's why I'm going to the appeals court. And I think with my case in the appeals court, I'm going to put all of that down, that these judges are conservators of the peace. Law enforcement won't allow me to file a criminal complaint. They're not allowing me to file a criminal complaint. So how can I utilize my First Amendment right to, to file a criminal complaint, for my case? They're denying you that. There's no mechanism of reporting. It's just basically come to court and we'll let the judge decide what they're going to do to you. And that's absolutely wrong. Judges only call balls and strikes. They're not supposed to legislate from the bench, and they can't give input on how you parent just because they believe that their parenting style is better. You have a right to the child as a parent, and with those rights, you have the right to parent your parenting style as long as you don't go into abusive parenting, you go into abusive parenting, whatever.
So Texas doesn't have a 50-50 law. Oh, so West Virginia didn't either. So this case came across in my email, and this guy was told that he got the exact same parenting time as the mom, right? So he's counting up the days, and he's like, it's not equal. It's supposed to be 50-50. He took it to the West Virginia Supreme Court and won. And they told the lower courts equal parenting time is 182.5 days. And that is what it's going to be. You can't just put it in a court order and then dad not get the exact same amount of time. No.
It's funny. It's funny you say that. There was a family court attorney here that did a lecture. And she was talking about how, and again, this lawyer that it was giving this lecture, she's part of the Family Law Foundation. And in the state of Texas, the Family Law Foundation is like a union for family lawyers. That's what they do. They are an arm of the state bar. They're it's a nonprofit, but once you become a lawyer, the Family Law Foundation is like, come to our nonprofit, sign up for our membership. And we're basically the union for family law attorneys. We want better practices, legal practices for attorneys. We want your law firm to excel. We want better conditions for you, more money, and so they do a lot of legislating at the legislature. And so the Family Law Foundation here in the state of Texas, they had this lawyer that was talking against 50-50 and saying that children could never get used to that schedule, and it's just a myth. They're throwing all these statistics down. And when she said 50-50, the number she gave, she said it was something like 87 nights or something like that. That's close to 50-50. And I'm sitting there and I'm like,
Hold on. 87 nights out of a 365-day calendar?
that's what I'm saying. That's
Wow.
exactly what I'm saying. Because I told, and I'd have to look for the video again, but I was sitting there and I was like, that doesn't compute correctly. How many days are in a year? 365, half, 81, 2, counting my toes. And that's why I say that's another thing. A lot of these attorneys, they're just like normal people. They went to law school. They read, they wrote, they took a test. I didn't go to law school because I didn't want to be a lawyer. But I can still read and write and comprehend. You're not doing anything like the Olympics, right? You don't have a superpower. I can read. I got a high school education that says you've met the state's minimum requirement for comprehension. I got that diploma. So it obviously means I can read and comprehend. I met the state standard with my graduation, with my diploma. You're nobody special because you went to law school. And a lot of these attorneys, they think they're part of the upper class. They can talk to you. They know a little bit about law. And it's really disheartening when you get attorneys that say, oh, you're just a keyboard warrior. You don't know the law. I'm reading the same thing you're reading.
They get mad. Right?
Yeah.
They get so mad that sometimes they will call the prosecutor and try to have you charged with practicing law without a license. But here's the funny part. You cannot, first of all, if I was ever to be charged with that, the first thing I'm going to tell the judge is you need to produce your law license, because I'm telling you for a fact, you don't even have one. The prosecutor, a bar card is nothing but a frat card. Okay. The law is public. It is our job as citizens of the United States of America to know what the fucking laws are.
To me, it's real simple. I'm just reading the law from the statutes page. I'm copying and pasting. I can read it. I'm reading it straight from the internet. I'm not practicing shit. I'm reading.
All right, the brat has to jump in here real quick. Tiffany, did you catch that story I sent? Did you catch the story I put in comments earlier?
Yeah, I saw that. That is disgusting.
It is.
Yeah,
That was
I
a
said-
judge.
that was a judge.
Was he removed?
No, this happened today.
He'll be the head judge. I say that tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Hey, so let me ask you guys, what are y'all doing as far as advocacy stuff?
What do you mean?
Exactly.
I mean, other than a YouTube channel, what are y'all doing as far as advocacy to bring awareness? Because I have a very unorthodox way of advocating for parents, and there's some people that don't agree with my tactics and my methods, and there's a lot of people that do. And
I get that too a lot. You can ask Tiffany.
yeah,
So my nickname is Spanny Brat. That was given to me by my uncle when I was 3 years old. But I use it online all the time because I am the brat. I will be the first to chew out a caseworker or chew out a judge. I've even chewed out the lawyers. I am a brat. And when this advocate told me this story today, I was just like, you're a better person than me. I'd probably be locked up right now because I would have called him on his stuff right then and there.
Yeah. Well, I do Constitution.
Yeah.
I have been in front of 3 judges that will no longer hear my case because I stood on my constitutional rights. Absolutely fucking not me. I also am working with my legislators to get laws changed, and a law can never be suspended. Okay, once it's there, it's there. So where I'm having words changed. I want laws revamped because, like you said, actually some of the laws here are from the 1800s. Are you kidding me? What are you doing? My
and my
brother-in-law,
thing is,
But
my
but that's good.
brother-in-law,
But that's good. And you know why it's
Yeah.
good? Because when you look at the law, it says the last time that law was touched, last time it was legislated, or the last time it was amended. There's a date on the bottom of every law, and that's good because when you go back and you reference where it says, like in the Constitution in Texas, our Texas Constitution says 1876 for the judicial department, and it'll say that a judge is a conservator of the peace. So unless you study the Constitution, you wouldn't know when the last time that was touched. But I did. I looked at it. It said 1876. We're in 2024 and nobody has touched it. Lawyers aren't going to bring that issue up. So I know that when I bring it up, I said, hey, it was legislated in 1876. It's still a constitutional right. This law was legislated in 1985. Let's go with interference with child custody. Interference with child custody is a state jail felony here in the state of Texas. It was legislated in 1973 as a third-degree felony. Since 1973, it's been amended 5 times. In 1998, it was amended from a third-degree felony to a state jail felony, which is like a class 4 felony in other states. So it's still being a felony, and it'll always stay a felony. But they've been telling people it's a civil issue. But when you go back and you tell these judges and these lawyers, hey, look, this law was last touched in 2011 by Representative Richard Raymond. I went and sat down with Richard Raymond. I said, hey, this is a law. You last touched it in 1978 or in 2011, and I want to talk to you about it. And so the guy who actually amended the order was still in office. So I was able to go to his office and say, hey, man, you legislated this law. You amended it in 2011 and nobody's enforcing it. So it takes a hit to their pride that they legislated a law and nobody's doing anything. So what can we do to get it enforced? Will you amend the law again to help us get it enforced? Will you make it stronger? And that's what he did. But those dates on the statutes at the bottom, use them. Because again, it goes back to, like I was telling you with the Zoom and the recordings. When they try to say, hey, recording is illegal, well, show me the law. Not only that, but when was it the last time it was touched? Well, the civil rules of procedure where it says you may ask was done way before COVID, which tells me that they talked about cameras and cell phones in the courtroom in 2012. With that being said, we're in 2024. We're 12 years past that, right? And we have so much more technology. We have so many more parents that are more educated. They know where their constitutional rights. And so more of us are flexing that, and we're challenging the judiciary. That's why I said, like, we're us advocates are molding the judiciary. We're reeling it back into where it's supposed to be by demanding accountability and transparency.
well,
Hey, George.
go ahead,
my
Brant.
mom
Go ahead.
wondered. Yeah, my mom was actually wondering if you do anything with domestic violence.
So I will help with domestic violence. Here's my thought, and I'm on the other side of domestic violence. I'm the guy with allegations, a lot of allegations that I've choked somebody, I've pointed guns, I've chased people down the street with guns. And there's a lot of allegations about me. I've had 2 protective orders and a restraining order. I understand what false allegations do. And
Yeah, this
and
one's not false, unfortunately. My dad literally tried to kill her stepdad.
well, so this is where I stand on a lot of that. I treat people equally. I don't care if you're a man. I don't care if you're a woman. There's bad women out there. There's bad men. There's bad fathers. There's bad mothers. If you hold people accountable to who they are, right, you're going to do the child's best interest. When you start advocating for feminism and VAWA and women's rights, you have on the other side of that, You have men's rights. You have men that are on the far right of men's rights, and you have the women that are on the far left of feminism, and they clash. And now they're
Yep.
fighting over genders and who's right and who has more right to the child. And does it belong to the child? Does it belong to the mother? And so that's why I believe 50-50 shared parenting from the get-go, unless there's confirmed domestic violence.
Well,
Obviously,
I'm 41. There's no children involved with this one.
oh yeah. So just like you're able to report domestic violence to law enforcement, they'll happily take all your domestic violence allegations. They'll take them. But when you call for a child custody issue, it's a civil matter. But there's a lot of money in protective orders. And I have done Zooms and recordings and investigations with other smaller Texas media outlets. And we have seen where some of the domestic violence 501c organizations are, of course, the more protective orders that they hand out, the more federal and state funding they get, because the more protective orders you give out, you're going to ask for more money so you can protect more people, right? And we've seen them target men. And I know that my ex beat me up. Like, I know that. But then she goes around and she throws these allegations that I did all of these things to her.
Yeah,
And just
he put her in a coma for 3 weeks.
yeah, I mean, there should be a
And she
protective
fell.
order for that.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
and
you're
there-
a narcissistic person.
I'm
Yep.
sorry?
So your ex is a narcissist. She's
I would never
playing the
say-
victim.
I would never say that in court that she's a narcissist, but I have my feelings about her. I have my court transcripts, and if you're not following me, I encourage people to follow me, because I'm opening up my case. A lot of people have been told for so many years, keep this quiet, don't put it on social media, it can be used against you. Hey man, they committed crimes against me in court, and so now I'm going to expose it. And even though I have to expose my own life, a lot of people have said, well, George is just doing this for attention. But no, I want everybody to show their transcripts, just like you show the videos. And I encourage people to record, because we live in a social media area. Everybody wants attention. Everybody's looking for help. And a really cool documentary was the Jerry Springer documentary. And he hits on it, right? Jerry Springer was popular so long because he introduced drama into our households through our television. And even though you didn't like the Jerry Springer show, you always turned it on because it was yak, 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 yak in the back, and it was something to watch, right? You were cooking dinner, but you were listening to Jerry Springer just to have something on. And so what we've seen is through social media, people are telling their stories through family court. And then people are entertained with these 1-2 minute clips. And then they want to know, well, how do I enforce my court order if I don't have any money? So we draw those people that are having the same issues that we're having. So now all I got to do is educate them, bring them up to speed. And for that, I don't charge, but it does take a lot of time out of my day. But I feel that if you educate somebody and they're able to educate somebody else, that's better than $5 or $10 that you were going to ask for. Because again, if y'all win, I win. If I win, y'all win. Right? And if you treat people equally under the law, the child wins. When you start letting abuse allegations take over and run rapid and seep into our judiciary for a state and a federal financial gain.
Yep, we see a lot of that in our CPS stuff.
Well, the funny thing is, ever since Chevron was overturned and the SEC, I've had this article come to me, and it says the law schools are so flabbergasted that these were overturned that they're trying to figure out how to teach law school. I said, go ahead.
So did y'all, well, speaking of law school, did y'all know that they don't teach the Constitution to lawyers and to judges?
And you know what's funny? I said, what I'm trying to do here, Virginia, is make judges and lawyers do lifetime courses, right? I mean, every couple of years, because they look. I am the type of person. If you ever watch any of my videos, you'll see I can get really reckless when I see a judge or a lawyer lying, trampling on somebody's rights. I can get very belligerent. Okay. I don't care if you're a cop. I even went to my prosecutor. Okay. I've known this man for 25 years. And I told him right to his face, I said, I'm not afraid of any of you. He goes, oh, no, Tiffany. I said, let me tell you something. I don't care if you're wearing a badge, a robe, or you're a bum in the street. We were all created equal, and I will not let anybody, one, disrespect me. Two, tell me that I don't have any rights because I got some shit for your ass. And three, don't let me be somewhere, especially in a courtroom, and let me hear a judge tell somebody that the Constitution doesn't apply in their courtroom. And another thing, the United States Supreme Court doesn't run my courtroom.
So, and that's what's funny. So, I'm just going to tell you the facts. And some people don't like how I put this, but it's the facts. So, 4 or 5 years ago, actually 5 or 6 years ago, because they've been in office for a term. But in Harris County, there was 16 black judges, female judges, that all got elected at the same time. They overturned a bunch of male white judges in Harris County. And this was a huge deal. The papers printed this picture, and it had 16 black female judges all taking the bench in Harris County in a sweeping win, Democratic win in Harris County. So when I went to court, I told my judge, look, I'm not gonna give up any of my constitutional rights while I'm in here. And she basically said, well, when you file into this case, you let me decide what's going to happen to you. And I said, no, ma'am, that's absolutely incorrect. And so with her being black, the 14th Amendment was ratified after the Civil War. The 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, which is, equality for under the law. The 14th Amendment, everyone is to be treated equally under the law. That's your 14th Amendment. And the reason it came after the Civil War was because of Negroes. So that judge is sitting on that bench because of the 14th Amendment. With that being said, in the 1920s and the 1930s, women couldn't vote. You had the suffrage movement. So now what's part of the United States Constitution? The right for people to vote, especially women. They fought for that. So while you're here denying me my 14th Amendment right, it's because the 14th Amendment allows you to sit on that bench and judge me. So you can use the Constitution, but I can't use the Constitution? That doesn't sound right. And when I put it down like that to the judge, of course, it came offensive because I said black. And I don't know how else to simply put it, but the reason why you have that opportunity to be a judge is because of the Constitution that gives you the requirements which you must meet to run for that elected office. And that elected office, the constituents of your district elected you there, and there were women that did it because of the Constitution. So you're able to go into child support court, you're able to go into these other courts, and you can plead the fifth. And again, a lot of people think, well, my constitutional rights aren't intact in family court. What I tell people, go in there every court session and say, I'm going to invoke my constitutional right. And you're not going to limit my constitutional rights. They're in full force and in effect. And I want that on the record. Because if you do ever take it to appeals, you want to protect yourself from anything and everything. So if you just make a statement on the record and you're just clear, concise, and to the point, you know, they get really, really nervous about it.
Yeah. We're gonna end the show. George, don't get off. Because we've been on for an hour and 10 minutes.
George, real quick, I had a couple of people asking me how to get a hold of you.
So you can get a hold of me through my Facebook page. It's George Saldana. It has a red background, and I got a code and it's tie. I don't know if you can see my icon here. I'm in the state of Texas. I have my personal page and I have my advocacy page, which I do a lot of stuff on my advocacy page. At Texas 25.03. You can find me on YouTube, at pretty much all the popular platforms, X, Truth, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, at Texas 25.03. Instagram, same.
I got banned from Twitter. I mean X.
All right, we're gonna end the show, but stay on.
Okay.